Welcome back to the tool shed. In this tool, I think I'm calling it Sabbath on Tuesday. You could also call it Keep the Sabbath in Your Car. Doesn't matter what you call it. It's an ancient principle. Now, let me just say before anybody hyperventilates because I'm talking about religious issues. First of all, I'm not coming at this from a religious perspective. I don't observe the Sabbath anymore, not in a traditional sense, although as you'll hear, I still observe it on a Tuesday, on a Wednesday afternoon, in different aspects of my life, and I'll get there. But you don't have to be religious to embrace wisdom traditions. I embrace all kinds of wisdom traditions. I practice every day Buddhist meditation practice. I try and do at least a few times a week yoga, coming from the Hindu tradition, and certainly as used to be a rabbi, still am a rabbi. I don't practice anymore, and certainly not an observant Jew. But I still take the wisdom of these traditions and make sure I'm incorporating it into my life. As I always say, here are my two criteria for turning something into a tool. All these are tools drawn from other places, wisdom traditions, teachers, best practice out there. Does it work and is it good? Because there are some things that work, but they're not good. They're just not contributing to my well-being or the well-being of the world. Or there are things that are good, but they don't work. So this one, at least in the way I've unpacked it in my life, is good and it works for me. And I know it'll work for you. It comes from the idea that from the Bible, the Torah, the creation process, the creator. You don't have to believe in God. You can't believe in God. It's irrelevant. Part of creation is not creating, right? It's just a simple but profound idea that if you want to create, you must have a period of time of not creating. Or that is to say, if you want to create music, for instance, you must have spaces in your music that's not music, also known as the silence. Beethoven or somebody said, right, the silence is what makes the music, the pause between the notes. Or if you're an artist, you can't just fill the entire canvas. You have to make sure that there's not painting to, kind of work in conjunction with the painting, or else it's just a mess. And the same is true in my life when I am in doing mode. And I'm an Enneagram 8. When I'm in reaction, I go into doing. It's called the challenger, but you could just as well call it the pusher, right? That push through life. I force my way through life. I work harder when I'm tired. It's a weird thing. And it never goes well because I have to pull back. I have to not do. I have to not work. And so, what does that have to do with this idea? There's a ancient saying in Judaism that more than the Jewish people have kept Shabbat or the Sabbath has kept the Jews. It's kept them alive. Why? Because of the rhythm of working hard 6 days, but not working that seventh day. And all that comes with it is what has held them together collectively. It's true in our own lives. Jewish, Christian, secular, atheist, doesn't matter. This principle will hold your life together. It makes it sustainable. I'm going to work, but I'm also going to be responsible and have sustainable work by pulling back, taking a break. You know this. You take a Sabbath every day from roughly 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. for me. Almost every day I take a Sabbath called called sleeping. What do you think the Sabbath is? Sabbath literally means to sit. Almost said to shit. To sit. You sit down and you are just present to what is. You're not trying to change it. You're not trying to control it. You're just accepting it. You're just noticing it. You're participating in it. You're bearing witness to it. You're present. How often am I just doing and missing my life, missing the moment? I'm out in the future most of the time, creating for a day that never really comes because it's always now and now and now. But I'm always 10 steps ahead of now. So the Sabbath is an important principle in our lives. Now, going to bed at night isn't quite enough because there's a lack of intention around that. And so we need intentionality. Bring Sabbath to your life. Again, maybe as a Christian, you observe it on Sunday and you do your thing. Maybe you're an observant Jew and do it on Saturday. Most people I know aren't observant and aren't religious in that sense anymore. Going to church and checking a box can do it, but for a lot of people, that's just going through the motions. I know a lot of Jews who go to the synagogue and they're not observing the Sabbath, they're checking a box. So it's not about attendance at a house of worship. It's not about religious affiliation. It's about becoming intentional in my life of doing and not becoming a human doing, as Wayne Dyer says, but getting back to human doing and held in check by a human being. And that can mean observing Sabbath on a Tuesday and putting it in your calendar. You can call it whatever you want. I have in there Shabbat, and it says Shabbat, which means Saturday in Hebrew, and it translates to the Sabbath, but it's in Jewish culture and in Israel, Saturday is the holy day. So it's interesting. If you go to Israel, you're working on Sunday, going to school on Sunday. Saturday, Friday, and Saturday really are the weekend there. Okay, you can create that experience though on a Tuesday afternoon between 3 and 5. I have in there Shabbat. What do? I sit. I just meditate. I just get present. Sometimes I'll journal. I'll do a little movement, yoga, but I really try and stay away from the usual ways that I go about it. Doing yoga, that's a doing for me as much as I love it. Or, going on a walk can be tremendously cathartic and meaningful, but then I find myself having to do something versus this Buddhist notion of, teacher of mine, Sylvia Boorstein, has a book called Don't Just Do Something, Sit There. That's the Sabbath, literally. Leshevet, to sit, Shabbat, Sabbath. Can you create a minute, right, in your busy life? Can you create 5 minutes, an hour, an entire day periodically, or maybe weekly, and just be present so that we don't slip from human doing into human being? Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. This is an ancient religious principle that's withstood the test of time for a reason. Create a Shabbat, create a Sabbath. Maybe it's in your car, not listening to the news, not listening to anything, just paying attention, right, while you're driving, which is a really strange concept. Or maybe it means turning off electronics. Probably like many of you, we don't allow electronics at our dinner table. Now, we don't necessarily, we do Friday night, the Sabbath dinner, but at least 2 times a week we'll have a family dinner, and there are no smartphones at that table during that time, because we've had a kind of a Sabbath principle or concept applied to just that 1 hour that we eat together. There's no wrong way to do this Sabbath, to do this being principle. We need these tools to make it official. It's not enough to have good ideas. We need to translate them into action, to execute on them, and that's why you can have Sabbath on a Tuesday. I'll see you in the next video.